Hello again, and welcome back to Classic Vinyl Podcast. This is a podcast where we listen to and review songs and albums from the classic vinyl era of the 60s and 70s. Sometimes we stretch that, but I am one of your hosts, Justin. I'm here with my co-host, Tyler.
Yes, and I am so glad to finally have the proper notes for this song.
Yeah, we had a little bit of note problem for Tyler, but I think we've got it solved.
This is a whole different song with the right notes.
Yeah. So we're going to do Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young and their song Woodstock today. Tyler, what history do you have with this song?
A little. I think most of my experience with this song is probably from your office.
Yeah, we say that a lot, but you've overheard a lot of music from back when we worked together. But
yeah, but a lot of songs that we have done are popular songs that get a lot of radio play. This song isn't very often found all over the radio. I mean, it does get a little bit.
Yeah, I hear it from time to time. But let me give you a little history on Crosby, Stills, and Nash, or Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, whatever you want to call them. They were somewhat of a folk rock supergroup formed in 1968. They were formed originally of David Crosby on vocals and rhythm guitar, Stephen Stills on vocals, rhythm guitar, bass, keyboards, and some percussion, Graham Nash on vocals, keyboards, and rhythm guitar. And of course, in 1969, Neil Young joined. So David Crosby had actually come from the Byrds. Stephen Stills had been in Buffalo Springfield with Neil Young, who actually joined the group in 1969. Graham Nash had been in the Hollies, and that's kind of why they're a super group. But the one thing Crosby, Stills, and Nash and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young are really well known for is their harmonies. They have beautiful harmonies. Their music covers multiple genres of music, from country rock, folk, rock. They had a lot of political activism, especially against the Vietnam War, and it was no secret at the time. They've sold over 30 million albums worldwide. All in all, they've recorded 8 studio albums, 5 live albums, released 6 compilation albums, and released 19 singles. In the U.S., all 8 of their studio albums were in the top 100 in the Billboard, 6 in the top 50, 4 in the top 10. So the album Deja Vu actually hit number 1 here in the U.S., Australia, and Canada. That's what this song Woodstock is off of. It was their first album once Neil Young had been added to the band. They did have one other number 1 album with their 1971 live album called Four-Way Street. So in the UK, 4 of their albums hit the top 100, with Deja Vu and their live album Four-Way Street both being their top charting albums at number 5. As far as singles are concerned, 11 of their singles were in the top 50 in the US, 5 in the top 20, but their highest charting singles were Just a Song Before I Go, which hit number 5 in 1977, and Wasted on the Way, which hit number 2 in 1982. It's kind of funny this band's never had a number 1 single.
That is a little odd considering how popular they are.
Yeah, kind of surprising to me. Marrakesh Express was actually their only noteworthy single in the UK, which hit number 17. So as much as I'm not having a huge single success here in the US, they had a lot less in the UK. The group broke up in 1970 and got back together briefly in 1974 as Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. They were together as Crosby, Stills, and Nash from 1976 to 1985. And once again, Crosby, Stills, and Nash and Young from 1988 to 2015, off and on. There were major problems between David Crosby and Neil Young, and I've heard they're both hard to work with, but we know who's probably the most hard to work with.
David Crosby.
Yeah, he's kind of a well-known asshole, but he has made some good music. But there was also a lot of problems between Graham Nash and David Crosby, so who's the common denominator there?
Crosby keeps getting into the middle of the mix, right?
He does.
Yeah.
Speaking of David Crosby, in January of 2023, he died, so that pretty much ended the possibility of any kind of reunion from this band again. But between Crosby, Stills, and Nash, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and all their solo careers, they've sold over 75 million albums worldwide. So
yeah, they're popular people.
Yeah, they've done a good job of putting themselves up there. Do you want to get to the song review?
I do.
And now it's time for the song review.
And of course, today we're doing Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young and their hit song Woodstock. Now, this song is very much a counterculture song of the 60s, and we've had a lot of them on this show, but this, if there is a soundtrack to the 60s, this is probably a song that belongs on that.
Oh, for sure.
Even though it didn't come out until 1970.
Yeah, but I mean, it's all about Woodstock, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Or at least, I mean, it's titled Woodstock.
Yeah, exactly. So It's all about Woodstock, without a doubt.
Yeah, Woodstock is definitely the punctuation of the decade.
And we'll get to that. So this was released as a single on March 11th of 1970. The B-side is a song titled Helpless. This song was originally written by Joni Mitchell. What it's been said is she had heard about everything that happened to Woodstock after her boyfriend Graham Nash at the time, who was obviously in Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, performed at the festival. This is disputed somewhat, however, because she said some other things that she wrote the song before the band returned, but either way, she was scheduled to play the festival, but her manager suggested to her that she drop out so she doesn't miss an appearance on the Dick Cavett show.
The what?
You've never heard of Dick Cavett?
I haven't heard of the Dick Cavett.
That really surprises me.
I've heard of Woodstock.
It was, well, I think if you put yourself in the shoes of the time, Dick Cavett was a lot bigger deal than a Woodstock festival, because you're thinking of Woodstock as we know it now. But,
oh, yeah, I'm looking back, 2020 vision, hindsight. But
yeah, it wasn't supposed to be as big as it was.
no.
And it was.
But so the Dick Cavett show, is that like akin to the Ed Sullivan?
More of an interview show.
Okay.
Where there's been all your famous musicians and actors and everyone had been on the Dick Cavett show.
Everyone who's anyone.
Exactly.
Does the Dick Cavett show.
So Joni Mitchell actually released her version of this song. It was actually the B-side off of her famous song Big Yellow Taxi that come out in April of 1970. So she released it a month later. I'm not really sure who recorded it first, and we listened to her version too, and it's completely different. It's got a lot of organ in it. You can actually understand the words really well.
Oh, she's got a beautiful voice, very clear.
Yeah, I've always liked Joni Mitchell, and we also listened to the Jimi Hendrix version because he was pretty key to getting this song up and going. And the original version, you can find that on Spotify, but it's different because it's got some organ in it. It's still got Stephen Stills singing, but Jimi Hendrix is just playing the bass guitar. It's a different version completely. It's kind of got different cadence to it and everything. So, but it's worth listening to. And you also had a band called the Matthew Southern Comfort, also released a version of their song in the UK where it actually was pretty popular. It reached number 17 in the UK charts. And there's so many artists that have re-recorded this song. There's a ton of them. Just go out and check them out. But so as far as Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, this was released as the lead single off of their Deja Vu album. Stephen Stills sings the lead vocal while Neil Young plays the lead guitar and offers backing vocals. David Crosby on electric guitar and backing vocals, and Graham Nash on piano and backing vocals. You've got Greg Reeves on bass guitar and Dallas Taylor on drums. So this song reached number 11 on the charts in the US and number 3 in Canada, which is kind of funny because it's so much of a counterculture song about Woodstock and what happened in the US that it charts higher in Canada. I just find that kind of funny. But
well, that's where everybody that was dodging the draft was going to, man. So that's why it was popular.
Good point. So, and the lyrics, if it's really hard to understand them on the Crosby, Stills, and Nash version because of the way they sing them, but the song's lyrics pretty easy to figure out if you can understand them, which they're kind of hard in this version, but listen to Joni Mitchell's version and they're really easy to understand. But it's about the Woodstock Festival in August of 69. I mean, it starts off talking about, well, I came upon a child of God on the road, and he's headed to Max Yasker's farm in New York to attend the festival. And there's all kinds of crazy things going on. Bombers turning into butterflies. I think that might be where the acid comes in.
LSD.
Yeah. Yeah, it's basically a description of going to the Woodstock Festival. So after sitting down and listening to Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young and their version of Woodstock, Tyler, what are your thoughts on this song?
This song was really a beautiful song. I guess I was a little turned around in my thinking of it.
Could that be because you had the wrong notes?
It was definitely because I had the wrong notes, but I was kind of turned around in my timeline of it. So I was under the impression that this song was performed at Woodstock, and it was not. The song was written after the festival, right?
Correct. Well, that's kind of disputed, but it definitely wasn't performed at Woodstock. Some people say Joni Mitchell wrote it when Graham Nash come home and told her all about it. She said she wrote it because she felt bad that she wasn't there, and she wrote it before they came back. But either way, it wasn't performed at the festival.
Okay. That's a shame. This would have been an excellent song at the festival. It fits so perfectly. But then again, an excellent homage song to the festival certainly would sound like that, right? I certainly appreciate that element of it, but it's poetic that it was not performed at it, and yet it was about it. This song is really interesting. It starts off with the electric guitar, then the bass and the drums join in, and then the tempo picks up. And as the tempo picks up, then you start getting the lyrics coming in. And boy, it's a fun song too. Excellent beat. I mean, it just really takes you back to upstate New York in 1969, August, and, to a little farm. But it's very poetic and very cryptic, very symbolic. There's a lot of symbolic imagery in the way that it's written and the poetry of this song. Real beautiful. It's all about peace and trying to steer away from war and acknowledging what we are, that we're sending these young men to have their lives cut down so early, so tender, so young. These guys are made of gold. They're made of billion-year-old carbon, right? And they're stardust. That's the chorus is.
Yeah, we are stardust, we are golden, we are billion-year-old carbon.
Yeah, and so you have a lot of different, you've got a lot of different contrast here. You've got the child of God and devil's bargain, which is, very religious and traditional concepts, juxtaposed with the opposite side where you're looking at billions of years of evolution and stardust and the cosmos, and these two ideas coming together and in this awesome acid trip. You're also getting bombers flying through the air, turning into butterflies in the sky. I mean, it's so cool the way that this song's written, and I just think it's real beautiful. I haven't had a chance to pull this apart as much as I want to and try to really delve into it.
Is this your first time sitting and listening to the song fully through?
Actively, absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
This is my first time listening to critique it, for sure. So I had a great time with this. I thought it was a beautiful song. I want to hear more of this. What are your thoughts on this one, Justin?
Well, you're certainly the lyric guy, aren't you? Because you just deciphered those down to absolutely everything. I like how you did that, because you are right. The lyrics do have that juxtaposition to each other that really puts you in that time. And of course, going on what you said earlier, we're looking back with 2020 vision on this thing and what it means. But as far as the song, for me, musically, this is my favorite Crosby, Stills, and Nash, or Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young song, without a doubt. And number one, because it's probably different than a lot of their other stuff. I love the guitar intro by Neil Young. He's an amazing guitar player, and I think that kicks this whole song off, because the guitar throughout is excellent. It's got an excellent vocal. I think Joni Mitchell wrote an amazing song, and Stephen Stills does an amazing job with the vocal. And you can't really talk about these guys, whatever iteration it is of the band, without talking about their harmonies, because in the choruses and things where they have the harmonies, they just play off each other really, really well. And you can tell when it's Crosby, Stills, and Nash especially, but even with Neil Young. But the bass is really good in this song. The drums are really good. They fit it perfect. The guitar solo in the middle, I absolutely love. It's got enough crunch to it. I mean, we're talking 1970, early 1970, and it's just perfect sounding. The lyrics are a little hard to understand if you're not following a lyric sheet or something like that, or if you listen to the Joni Mitchell version. But when you do read the lyrics and you understand the lyrics, they are pretty beautiful. They really are, because it's a perfect song for the time, and I just love the lyrics in it. A couple of the ones I like, I think you talked about it, the main chorus, the we are stardust, we are golden, and I like even the last time they say that, instead of we are billion-year-old carbon, they say we are caught in the devil's bargain, which I really like the meaning of that, and you can put your thoughts to that. But all through the song, got to get back to the land, set my soul free, and I feel myself a cog in something turning. The lyrics are really special in this song, and I'm not a huge lyric guy, but they do mean something, and they kind of put you in the shoes of what people were feeling at the time, Something's changing. We want to be free, but we're at this war that we could go and lose our lives anytime. And I don't know, it's just a whole feeling that I don't even know if we can imagine today, as crazy as the world is. But it had to be pretty scary for everybody, but also kind of promising with everything changing.
Yeah, for sure. This was a terrifying time for especially young men, but also everybody.
Yeah, I think this song gives you that feeling perfectly.
Yeah, for sure.
So do you want to rate the song?
Let's rate it.
Song rating.
Okay, if this is your first episode, our rating system is very basic, 0 to 10. 5 being smack in the middle, and so 10 being the best. I give this one a 7.5. I give it a 7.5 because I kept teetering back and forth between 7 and 8. 8 was just a little too high for me to give it. 7 didn't seem like it was really doing justice to as beautiful as this song is, as poetic as this song is, as well performed as this song is. But, I mean, this song's not my favorite. It's not a 10, but it is up there. So a solid 7.5 for me. Where do you put this one, Justin?
I'm a little higher than you on this one. This is my favorite Crosby, Stills, and Nash or Crosby, Stills, and Nash and Young song. Like I stated earlier, I rate this song a 9. I think it fits perfect. I don't back off saying that it belongs on the soundtrack of the 60s. The only problem is that album, the soundtrack of the 60s for me is probably like at least a 10 album set. So
yeah.
It's not a short album, but it still belongs on there. And I think it's a great song. I'm not really drawn to Crosby, Stills, and Nash. I like a lot of their music, but I'm not a super fan by any means. But I love this song, and it's my favorite of theirs.
That's fair. This could very easily be my favorite of theirs as well.
So that's Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young and their song Woodstock. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or would like to send us a song to review, let us know. Send it to us at classicvinylpodcast@gmail.com. We really appreciate you listening. Until next time, we'll see you later.
See ya. Thank you so much for listening to Classic Vinyl Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Classic Vinyl Podcast for updates, and also share us with your music-loving friends.